A kid at school drew me from inside my house. I go to Westbrook Middle School. Have for 2 years now. It's one of those schools that looks fine from the outside. Brick walls, decent basketball courts, a cafeteria that smells like reheated pizza. But once you're inside long enough, you start noticing how weird everything is. The hallways are too long. The fluorescent lights flicker in a way that makes everyone look slightly sick. And there are kids here you just don't talk to. Not because they're mean. Because something about them is off, and you can't put your finger on what it is. Eli Carter is one of those kids. He's in my grade. We share first period, Mrs. Henderson's English class, and we have lunch at the same time, though we've never once sat together. He's quiet. Not shy quiet. More like he's always listening to something the rest of us can't hear. He sits in the back corner of every class, and his hands are always moving. Sketching, drawing. Sometimes he's drawing on his notebooks, sometimes on loose paper, sometimes on the back of a worksheet he's already finished. His pencil never stops. I first noticed one of his drawings by accident. It was after first period, and I was grabbing my backpack from under my desk. Eli had already left. He's always one of the first ones out, but his notebook was still open on his desk. I wasn't trying to look. I just did. It was a drawing of me, not a big one. Just a small sketch in the corner of the page, done in pencil. Me sitting at my desk, chin in my hand, looking out the window, which is exactly what I'd been doing about 10 minutes before the bell rang. The detail was insane for something that small. The way my hair did that thing where it curls up at the back when I haven't brushed it. The exact way I hold my hand against my face. I stared at it for a second, then grabbed my bag and left. I didn't say anything to him. It felt weird to bring up, like admitting I'd been reading someone's private stuff. And honestly, it was kind of flattering. Someone thought I was worth drawing. That was a Monday. By Wednesday, I'd seen 2 more, both in his notebook, both of me. One was me walking down the hall between classes, backpack over one shoulder. The other was me in the cafeteria, laughing at something, I couldn't even remember what, with my friends. Both of them were stupidly good. Like way better than anything a 7th grader should be able to do. I told myself it didn't mean anything. Eli drew everyone. He drew all the time. I was just another face in the crowd that he happened to land on. But something about the way he looked at me in class, like he was memorizing me, made me think it was more than that. The drawings started showing up in places they shouldn't have been. At first, it was still his notebook. I'd catch glimpses of them when we passed in the hallway or when I walked by his desk before class. Always me. Always in moments I hadn't realized anyone was paying attention to. Me tying my shoe at my locker. Me reading in the library during study hall. Me sitting on the bleachers during gym, not doing anything, just sitting there and zoning out. Then one morning I opened my own locker and found a folded piece of paper inside. I unfolded it. It was a drawing of me, getting dressed that morning. Not in a weird way, just me pulling a hoodie over my head in front of my mirror. The angle was from behind me, slightly off to the side, like someone had been standing in my doorway. My bedroom door had been open that morning. My younger sister could have been walking past. My mom could have glanced in. Anyone could have seen it, but no one had been there. I was sure of it. I would have heard someone in the hallway. I held the paper for a long time, standing in front of my open locker, trying to talk myself out of what I was feeling. It was just a drawing. Eli was talented. Maybe he'd been guessing, filling in details from his imagination. Kids did weird stuff. It didn't have to mean anything. I folded it up and put it in my backpack and didn't think about it for the rest of the day. Or at least, I tried not to. The problem was, I started noticing him everywhere after that. Not just in the classes we shared, in the hallways between periods, at the water fountain, in the cafeteria, 2 tables away, always with his head slightly angled, always with a pencil moving. And every single time I caught him looking, he didn't look away. Most people do. You make eye contact with someone and they snap their gaze somewhere else, embarrassed. Eli just held it. Calm, still. Like he was waiting for me to look away first. I always did. One afternoon after school, I was sitting on the steps out front waiting for my mom to pick me up. It was one of those early fall days where the sun is still warm, but there's something in the air that tells you winter is coming. I had my phone out, scrolling through nothing, half asleep. I looked up and Eli was standing at the edge of the parking lot, about 40 feet away. Sketchbook open in one hand, pencil in the other, drawing me, not hiding it, not pretending he was drawing something else. Just standing there in broad daylight, sketching me on the front steps of the school like it was the most natural thing in the world. I raised my hand, a wave sort of, more like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He closed the sketchbook, tucked it under his arm, and walked away. Slow, unhurried. He didn't look back. My mom pulled up 2 minutes later. I got in the car and didn't say a word the whole ride home. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling and thought about the drawing in my locker, the one of me in my bedroom. The one that meant someone had seen me when no one should have been there. I thought about Eli's face when I'd caught him in the parking lot. Not guilty, not embarrassed, just calm. Like he'd been expecting me to notice eventually. Like it was only a matter of time. The next week, the drawings got worse. I found one in my textbook, tucked between the pages of my math book like a bookmark. It was me, asleep. Not at school. At home, on my couch, in the exact position I'd fallen asleep in the night before, still in my clothes, the TV on in the background. The detail was sharp. Sharper than anything Eli had drawn before. The way the blanket had fallen off my shoulder. The way my hand was curled under my chin. The blue flicker of the screen casting shadows across my face. I sat in math class holding that drawing under my desk, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I tried to think of an explanation. A normal one. Maybe someone in my family had shown him a photo. Maybe he'd seen me through my living room window from the street. My house was on a corner, and if you stood at the right angle, you could see the couch. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe it was just a drawing. But it wasn't just a drawing. It was too precise. Too specific. The way the light hit my face was exactly right for the angle of my TV at that time of night. The blanket was the one I'd pulled out of the closet just that evening because the temperature had dropped. There was no way he'd guessed any of that. I found another one the next day. This time it was in my jacket pocket, my jacket that had been hanging in my locker all day, the same locker I'd locked that morning. It was a drawing of me walking home from school, taken from behind, from a distance. The street was right. The houses were right. The way I walked with my backpack hanging low because I never adjusted the straps. All of it was right. I turned around in the hallway after finding it and looked for him. There he was, leaning against the lockers at the end of the hall, pencil in hand, watching me react. He didn't smile. He didn't smirk. His face was completely flat, patient, like he was waiting for something specific to happen. I thought about going to a teacher. I thought about going to the office and saying, "This kid is drawing me. He's drawing me inside my house. Something is wrong." But how do you say that out loud? How do you hand a piece of crayon art to an adult and explain that it's evidence of something when all it looks like is a kid who's good at drawing? They'd think I was overreacting. They'd think I was being dramatic. They'd pull Eli aside and ask him about it, and he'd sit there with that same calm, blank expression and say he didn't know what they were talking about, and nothing would happen. So I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I started locking my bedroom door at night, and I started checking the windows before I went to sleep. And every morning when I walked into first period and sat down, I looked at Eli in the back corner, pencil already moving, and I thought, how much has he seen? How long has this been going on? And how is he doing it? The answers came sooner than I expected. The following Thursday, I stayed late after school to help set up chairs for the drama club's rehearsal. The gym was mostly empty, just me, a few drama kids, and the quiet echo of the space. I was carrying a folding chair across the room when I glanced toward the bleachers and saw it. A sketchbook, sitting open on the third row, no one near it. I set the chair down and walked over. The page it was open to was a drawing of me. But not just me. Me and someone else. Someone standing behind me in my bedroom, close enough to touch, watching me sleep. The someone had no face, just a dark shape, a silhouette. But they were there, clearly, deliberately there. And they had been there, in my room, behind me, while I slept, and Eli had seen it. I closed the sketchbook and held it against my chest and stood there in the empty gym for a long time, breathing. I cornered him the next day after lunch. I'd spent the whole morning thinking about what to say, running through it in my head, over and over, trying to find the right words that would make him understand that I wasn't okay with this, that I was angry, that whatever this was, it needed to stop. By the time the lunch bell rang, I was wound tight enough that my jaw hurt from clenching. He was sitting at his usual spot, the end of a table near the wall, alone, sketchbook open, pencil moving. I walked up and stood in front of him and didn't sit down. "Eli." He looked up, same calm face, same steady eyes, like he'd been expecting me. "We need to talk," I said. My voice came out harder than I meant it to. "About the drawings." He didn't flinch, didn't close the sketchbook, just set his pencil down and looked at me and waited. "I know it's you," I said. "The ones in my locker, the ones in my jacket, the one in my textbook, all of them. I know it's you, and I need you to tell me how you're doing it, because some of them," I swallowed. "Some of them are from inside my house, and you have never been inside my house." A beat of silence. The cafeteria was loud around us, kids laughing, trays clattering, the usual chaos. But at our little corner of the table, it felt like the volume had been turned down. "I know," Eli said. "You know what? That I haven't been inside your house." He said it plainly, like he was correcting a math problem. I haven't. Then how did you draw it? How did you know where my couch is? What blanket I use? How the light looks at night? He tilted his head. That same slight tilt I'd seen before. Not confused exactly. More like he was translating something from one language to another. I just see it, he said. I see where you are. I see what's around you, and I draw it. That's not... I stopped, took a breath. That's not how that works, Eli. You can't just see someone somewhere. You have to actually be there. No, he said. You don't. We stared at each other. Around us, the cafeteria kept going. The noise, the movement, all of it completely normal. But right here, right now, nothing felt normal at all. The drawings are getting scary, I said, and I meant it. My voice cracked a little on the word and I hated it, but I couldn't help it. The one with the person behind me, in my room, while I'm asleep. That one scared me. Something shifted in Eli's face. It was small, barely there, but it was the first real expression I'd ever seen on him. Not guilt, not fear, something closer to urgency. That one wasn't about you, he said. What do you mean? He picked up his sketchbook and flipped back a few pages. Stopped. Turned it toward me. It was the drawing again. Me on my couch, asleep, the dark figure standing behind me in the doorway. But now I was looking at it closely, really looking, and I saw something I'd missed before. In the corner of the page, almost hidden, Eli had drawn the figure's hand. It wasn't just hanging at its side. It was reaching. Who is that? I asked. My voice was barely above a whisper. Eli looked at me, and for the first time, his calm, flat expression broke into something I could actually read. He looked scared. I don't know, he said. But I've been drawing him for weeks. He's always there, and he's getting closer. After that conversation, everything changed. And not in the way I expected. I thought finding out that Eli wasn't spying on me, that he genuinely, somehow, impossibly could just see things from far away, would make me feel better. It didn't. It made everything worse, because now I had two things to deal with. The fact that there was a kid in my grade who could see me whenever he wanted, from anywhere, and the fact that there was someone, something, in my house that he'd been trying to warn me about. I went back to Eli the next day. This time I sat down across from him. It felt different. Less like a confrontation, and more like two people trying to figure something out together. He opened his sketchbook without me asking and started flipping through it. Page after page after page, dozens of drawings. Most of them were of me, but not all of them. There were other kids from school, kids I recognized, kids I didn't. All of them drawn from impossible angles, all of them rendered with that same sharp, unsettling precision. I draw everyone I see, Eli said quietly, but some people I see more than others. It's like... He paused, searching for the words. Like a signal. Some people are louder. You were loud the whole time I started drawing you, but then the figure showed up and it got louder. Louder how? Closer, like something was pulling my attention there. He tapped the page with the dark figure. I couldn't stop drawing it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it, standing behind you, in your room, in your kitchen, at the end of your bed. I didn't sleep that night, not 1 minute. The next morning, I got up early and went through my house before anyone else was awake. I checked every room, every closet, the basement, the garage. Everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. Nothing out of place. No sign that anyone had been there. But I found something in my bedroom that hadn't been there before. A single pencil sitting on my nightstand. Not mine. I use mechanical pencils, always have. This one was a standard number 2, slightly worn down, like it had been used a lot. It wasn't Eli's either. I asked him later. He'd never been in my house. He was sure of it. I kept the pencil. I don't know why. Maybe because throwing it away felt like pretending it wasn't real, and I was done pretending. Over the next 2 weeks, Eli and I spent almost every day together after school. Not in a normal way. We weren't hanging out, weren't becoming friends in any regular sense. We were working. He drew. I watched. Every afternoon, he'd sit with his sketchbook and close his eyes and go somewhere. I don't know where. Somewhere he could see things the rest of us couldn't. And after a few minutes, he'd start drawing. Sometimes it was the figure. Sometimes it was other things. Things in my house I hadn't noticed. A door that had been opened an inch. A window latch that had been unclicked. Footprints in the dust on my bedroom floor that I hadn't seen until he drew them and I went home and looked. The figure was everywhere. It had been everywhere, maybe for months, and Eli was the only one who could see it. The last drawing he made was on a Friday. We were sitting on the bleachers after the final bell, the sky going gray and cold the way it does in late October. Eli had his eyes closed. His pencil was moving fast, faster than I'd ever seen it move. His face was tense, which was new. Everything about him was tense, like he was fighting against something. He opened his eyes and held up the sketchbook. It was my bedroom. My bed, my nightstand, everything exactly right, down to the pencil I'd been keeping in the drawer. But the figure was different this time. It wasn't standing in the doorway. It wasn't at the end of the bed. It was sitting on the edge of the mattress, facing the viewer. And for the first time, it had a face. I stared at the drawing for a long time. The face was familiar in a way I couldn't place. Not someone I knew, not someone from school or my neighborhood or anywhere I could point to, but familiar, like I'd seen it somewhere before and forgotten. Like it had always been at the edge of my vision, just out of focus, and now someone had finally sharpened the image. "What do I do?" I asked Eli. My voice sounded small, even to me. He looked at the drawing, then at me, then back at the drawing. "You already know," he said. "You just haven't looked closely enough." I took the sketchbook home that night. I sat on my bed, the same bed in the drawing, and I looked at the face again, and again, and again, until it stopped being unfamiliar, until it clicked into place like a key turning in a lock. I recognized it, not from somewhere I'd been, not from someone I'd met, from my own mirror, years ago, a version of myself I didn't remember being, younger, quieter, standing in a doorway, watching. I closed the sketchbook and sat in the dark for a long time after that. The house was silent. The pencil was still in the drawer next to me, and somewhere I knew, Eli was sitting in his own room with his own sketchbook, pencil moving, eyes half closed, seeing something none of us were meant to see. Still drawing.